What's up,
Okay,
guys?
that's good. Hi,
Hi,
Jerry. Thanks for joining
How are
us.
you?
We're very excited.
It's so much fun to be here, man. I really it's funny. I think I got involved with your show because I followed you on Instagram, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
And I just I mean, is it okay if you want to do an introduction or should I just go?
I've written out an introduction.
Let's do
Boy,
that first.
have you done a lot of stuff, man.
Not as
So-
much as David Addison.
No one can
Okay.
keep up with David Addison.
All right, so I've done an introduction. I tried to cut it short as much as I could, but we'll see how we go. Okay. All right. Hello and welcome to another bonus episode of Moonlighting the Podcast. Today we have a very special guest who, like us, has been a devoted Moonlighting fan from the beginning. He's here to share his memories of being a teenager watching Moonlighting. But first, a little bit about Jerry. He began his career at a very young age. He featured in some commercial and TV work, but he got his big break in 1986 when, at the ripe old age of 12, he played the role of Vern Tessio in the popular film Stand By Me, opposite River Phoenix and Corey Feldman. And for this, he won a Jackie Coogan Award. After that, he worked on many TV movies and TV series, one of them being a starring role in My Secret Identity from 1988 to 1991. Just to let everybody know, Jerry's making gestures right now. In 1993, in 1993, he starred in Calendar Girl opposite Jason Priestley. And how can we forget when, back in 1996, Jerry landed the role of the superstar quarterback, Frank Cushman, in the successful film Jerry Maguire opposite Tom Cruise. In 1999, he played Mariah Carey's boyfriend in her music video Heartbreaker. The best part, by the way, Jerry, is when she poured Coke in your lap. I like that. In 1995 to 1999, he starred in the TV series Sliders. In 97, he starred in Scream 2. And 99, he starred in Body Shots. In 2000, he appeared in the Brian De Palma film Mission to Mars with Gary Sinise. He has also appeared in many other movies such as Tomcats, Buying the Cow, Kangaroo Jack, which is hilarious, by the way. I got to talk to you about that one.
Yeah.
Yours, Mine, and Ours.
Sorry if it was offensive in any way.
Sorry?
Sorry if it was offensive in any way.
No, Man About Town and Room 6. And he starred in 88 episodes of Crossing Jordan from 2002 to 2007. Now, if you're a fan of The Big Bang Theory, you will know that Jerry starred in 3 episodes as George Cooper Jr., or should we say Georgie. More recently, he was the voice of Commander Jack Ransom in Star Trek Lower Decks. And he's currently a co-host on the CBS daytime talk show, The Talk, and the list goes on. Not only is he a talented actor, but he's also a producer, a writer, and a director. Welcome to Moonlighting the Podcast, Jerry O'Connell.
Woo! That was I mean, that's it. That's our show, everybody. We're done.
Hey, I was impressed at Stand By Me with River Phoenix. Done.
Not one of those jobs with Bruce Willis, but
Exactly.
I have met Sybil Shepherd. My wife worked with Sybil Shepherd, and I got to meet her. My wife did a short-lived show called Eastwick, based on the film Witches of Eastwick, and a short-lived television show called Eastwick. And Sybil Shepherd played a recurring character in it, and I want to tell you, it was maybe the most starstruck I've ever been in my life. I mean, I'm such a Moonlighting fan, which is why I'm here. I follow you on Instagram. When I started following you, Moonlighting was not available on streaming or anything. It was not available. I only had DVDs of it, and it's so funny. After my wife, or right before my wife was going to work on another TV show, it was sort of another short-lived TV show. Wow, we're on all these short-lived TV shows, but it was sort of a lot of banter back and forth, a workplace banter thing. And I said to my wife, I was like, we've got to rewatch Moonlighting now. Because that's the bar. Like, if you have workplace banter, I don't care if it's a movie, I don't care if it's Tracy Hepburn.
Yeah.
It's Moonlighting. And we watched every episode, and it was so cool to revisit it. And it's why I started following you, and why I'm here, and why I was so excited when you had me watch that episode, Blonde on Blonde, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe the best. I mean, obviously all Moonlighting episodes are great, but for me, that was the climax. And also, I hate to say it, that was the peak for me. It did go a little. I'm saying something blasphemous on this podcast.
No, you're not. You're not.
After Maddie hooked up with
Sam,
the guy from NCIS, Mark Harmon,
Mark Harmon,
the astronaut. I almost couldn't forgive. I almost couldn't forgive Maddie. It was so upsetting. It was it was really upsetting to me. I know it's make believe and just a TV show, but I mean, it's just a great episode. Oh, I should have said spoiler alert, everybody. Sorry.
40 years later.
Yeah, 40 year spoiler alert. Yeah, well, I think that one of the first comments that connected us on Instagram was that you said that you will always remember where you were the moment Sam opened the door in that episode, which is why we thought it would be a great, episode to have you come on and talk about.
I was on vacation with my parents in Miami, and we watched it in a hotel room. And just I want the kids watching this to think about this. In order to watch that episode, I was on vacation, and I told my family, hey, we're going to be back home I think it was Tuesdays at 9 is when it was on. Tuesdays at 9, right?
Yes.
Correct.
I was like, Mom, Dad, I had a brother, Charlie, 9 o'clock Tuesday. I don't care what's going on. We're watching this. I'm watching this episode.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy to think about, these days, I mean, you don't have to be sitting somewhere at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday anymore. You can watch it. I'll wait till I'm flying on a flight, and I'll catch up with it.
Yeah, we're very spoiled. Right. We're very spoiled now. That's for sure.
But it's true. Back then, it was appointment television. If you missed it, you weren't going to see it until maybe they repeated it, and not all episodes repeat. They only chose some to repeat, on and off. Well, there were lots of repeats of Moonlighting, let's be honest, but yeah, but if you didn't watch it, you're missing out. So that's right.
So I don't know where to start with you guys. I mean, it's funny, rewatching that episode and knowing I was going to come talk to you guys. Moonlighting, I think first aired, was it 85 or 86? 85, right?
85.
Right. That's right. Yes.
85. So in 85, I was 11. And I didn't really start watching until 86 is when I started watching, was second season. So I'm a 12-year-old guy, and it's a very awkward age for everyone at 12. I wanted to talk to girls. I wanted to pick up girls. I wanted to have confidence. I wanted to be funny. And it's funny. Rewatching this episode, a lot of who I am as a man is because of David Addison. I just really modeled. I thought he was the coolest, and it was so funny watching Blonde on Blonde because I mean, it was Bruce Willis, I guess, but also it was that writing, and it was how confident he was with Maddie. Man, it is so funny to me how every time Maddie tries to go on a date or go out with a guy or has got a date or is going to hook up with somebody, David Addison always comes in and breaks it up. I watched another episode. They were working on a case. It wasn't Blonde on Blonde, but I remember Maddie was on a date and Bruce Willis gets like really jealous and like upset about the date. And then something happens in the case and he busts in on her date and the date has to sit up. And then he sits down in the date seat and he's talking to her. And it's just like, it was just so funny. It just really taught me through those very awkward years, what really how to make myself and I don't mean this in a vain sense, like attractive in the physical sense. I mean like how to be an attractive person, because I found David Addison to be such an attractive person.
Yeah, like very charismatic. Be charismatic, I guess.
Yeah, but it's not even charisma. It's or rizz, as the kids say today. It's it was
confidence.
You smiled when he showed up. You laughed. It was interesting. It's just so good. Watching Blonde on Blonde too. He was I shouldn't say was. He is a really good actor. That long scene in Blonde on Blonde where they're in the office, just from an actor standpoint, if you look at the staging, Maddie's sitting down. He knows something's wrong with Maddie. He's standing in front of her desk. He's standing in front of her desk. He's trying to get it out of her. She's not going to say what's bothering her. He says something's wrong with you. We always fight. Why aren't we fighting? He's got these long monologues. And Sybil Shepherd isn't saying anything. Sybil Shepherd restlessly gets up and walks into the position that he was in. And then Bruce Willis sits in her chair. It's so fun. It's just the blocking, the dialogue, it changes. And then Sybil Shepherd starts telling him why she's restless. And she goes through these monologues and he's sitting there in her chair, in her desk, listening to it. It's yin and yang. It's perfect balance. It's writing. It's acting. It's characters. It's just balanced, really perfect entertainment.
Yeah, we often say that a lot of, like, we obviously go through each episode scene by scene. I don't know if you've listened to the podcast, but we often say how complicated sometimes the scenes are. And when, people are watching it, you don't realize how much has gone into organizing each cut and where they stand and then he goes and sit. And by the way, we love it when he sits in a chair. We say that a lot. Yeah, but the overlapping dialogue, and their own monologues, they were just two talented people. Amazing.
But it's also, it's so awesome how the shows open up on these long scenes that sort of set up the storyline. I'm going to guess that was an 8-page scene that they rehearsed a lot. They memorized a lot. I mean, it's funny. I watched the DVD extras where Bruce Willis was commenting over scenes, and he was just really, I think, sort of blown away at seeing the shows and the memories that it brought back. But it's amazing to me. You're watching two people. You're watching a group of people, because the writers get a lot of have to get a lot of praise as well. You're watching two people at the top of not only their game, but like the game. I have not seen a two-hander, a duo, better than Maddie and Dave. I just haven't.
Yeah, it's so true.
Well, yeah. Speaking of Sybil Shepherd, you're following her interview. We actually did interview her on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and we kind of joked with her from writing to lighting. We said, and we were kind of joking with her about that. It was all so great how it all came together, and it's so true. Yeah. And like what you're saying, they make it look easy, and we know it's not easy. And you, from an actor standpoint, that's not easy to do that 8-page dialogue. And I don't know if they did have a lot of time to rehearse it, and they blocked it, and I think rehearsed it and then just did it. And they make it look easy, and it's not. And I don't think they did have a lot of time. I think it was like bam, bam, bam on that show, and it is amazing what they pulled off. So like time and time again. Yeah, it's really,
And it's so funny. And stop me if you want to break it down scene by scene if I'm talking too much.
No,
but
go ahead, no problem.
You know, it is so incredible too how there was nothing but here we are. It's a two-hander. It's two people talking. At the same time, there was nothing predictable about what they were doing. You know, you can make the jokes. Yeah, they're breaking the fourth wall when he talks about sweeps and all that stuff. And that's funny. And that's something they did in the 80s a lot. And Gary Shandling, who was also popular at the same time, did it a lot as well. And that's sort of like there was another show I watched when I was younger called Parker Lewis Can't Lose. And that was a lot of looking at the camera. I don't care about that. The stuff that's really, it's not a predictable TV show. So, for example, in Blonde on Blonde, when Donna Dixon's character, Sybil Shepherd's character, leaves the bar, by the way, incredible music in the episode as well. That C'est La Vie song is so good. I think the beginning of the episode started with a big song as well. And then they just paid for the...
Yeah, Nasty by
Nasty. Well, yeah, they paid for a Janet Jackson song, you know? I mean, like, that costs money, everybody.
Yes.
And music was such an important part of the show as well. But so he is now trailing Donna Dixon, Sybil Shepherd, to the diner and back of the diner, to the hotel, to the room on the ledge. The only dialogue that's said there is him saying to the guy who's working at the bakery, is there a back exit here? And he goes, some lady just asked me that. That's the only lines. It's like 15 minutes of no dialogue. Let me tell you something. If I still work in TV, if you wrote a script and it was no dialogue, an executive, a network, everyone would go, you can't shoot this. There has to be dialogue. And now, I don't have the insight, but like, I don't know if that's Glenn Caron. I don't know if that's the show's such a hit, they're able to do it. But stuff like that is not only unconventional, it's unheard of. So that's why the show was so good, is because it was completely unpredictable. Not one episode was the same as the next. And that's not how TV works. If you watch insert procedural show here, it is the same exact episode after episode after episode. Trust me, I've worked on them. It is the same thing. Someone sitting in front of a computer saying it's a match, chase scene, arrest, dun dun, trial. It's not them. It was someone else who was it's just the same thing. They wrote completely different episodes when they made Moonlighting, and that's, you just don't get that unpredictability anymore.
Yeah. And a lot of that was Glenn Caron, because he didn't want to follow that scripted television. He wanted to do something different. And Moonlighting, the point that it is right now, like you say, it's at its peak here with Blonde on Blonde in these episodes, the trilogy of episodes that lead up to them sleeping together. But if you think of everything that happened in Blonde on Blonde, in about 45 minutes, it's almost like a movie where you start, with the case and that man being shot, and then Maddie and David in their banter, and then they're out and they're following, and then we then the jail scene, then the interrogation scene, and then the whole opening the door scene, and all of that emotion in David's face because he's realized he loves Maddie and he wants to tell her, and then boom, he's kind of
I was actually
it's amazing.
And this is gonna make me sound like a prude, but and I swear I'm not. I mean, I'm cool, ladies. I know how to party. I couldn't believe how racy the opening sequence was. I mean, there was like sex and pretty close to nudity. I mean, when that came out when I was 13, I must have been blown away watching that. I mean, and it was you weren't sure if it was Sybil Shepherd nudity or what was going on, It was racy. I don't remember it being that racy. And at the same time, obviously, because it was network television in the late 80s, they didn't show anything, and this is really going to make me sound like a square, but like, they didn't have to show it. It was like, it worked. It was like really sensual,
They leave it up to your imagination, Jerry.
Yeah.
Yeah, they showed just
imagination.
enough. They showed just enough.
It's definitely a great sequence at the start because like the great song, bam, it hits you in the face, and then you just get segments of what's going on with Maddie, what's going on with the Donna Dixon character, and what you're sort of wondering what's going on. Why is that guy following her? And I think it's a great start.
Yeah. Now they don't always start every episode, and I'm sorry, it's been a few years since I've really dug into Moonlighting. So that's why it was so refreshing to watch Blonde on Blonde. Do they always start with what we call a teaser, like someone getting killed in the beginning? I don't think so, right?
No.
The case. Well,
not always. No.
A lot of what they would do with the case is, with Sybil and Bruce, the pressure on them to be in about every scene and pull off all of that dialogue was pretty great and exhausting. And, there was a bit of a burnout here in season 3 and things like that, behind the scenes. Glenn would try to open with sometimes a longer opener, setting up the case to kind of give them a break, So I think nothing was the same on Moonlighting episode after episode, like we were saying. But often, if there was a longer setup for the case, it was usually because either they were falling short a little bit with the episode, or to give Sybil and Bruce a break. But this time it's kind of cut in between. Yeah.
Just for example, All Creatures Great and Not So Great. We don't see them for 7 minutes or something. So it all starts with the priest in the church and the woman coming into the confessional and all that sort of thing. So that was an example of them reducing their workload. But it wasn't always like that. Sometimes it's Maddie coming out of the elevator in the morning.
It is different each episode.
Yeah.
Nothing's
so interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you started watching. We were curious about that. It's always nice to have like a male perspective also, since we talk about it so much, the two of us. And I have a friend, I was just telling Grace the other day, my friend Jarima said he thought David Addison was the coolest. He tried to emulate his walk. Yeah. How he kind of talked to ladies, and so we were curious about his effect on you as a man.
It really, I thought to myself as I was entering, puberty, and I was really entering that world where you're a teenager, so your currency is, dating, I mean, I have teenage kids now. I mean, your currency is, are you cool? Do you have friends? Do people like you? Are you cool? And
sure.
He was so cool. And now that I'm older, I realize it's with David Addison, it's just the confidence, And while he's obviously an insecure guy, and because secure men don't follow their coworkers that they have a crush on around town, at night. But it was just how he carried himself, and it really it really molded what my personality is. I mean, we're all personalities. Like when you walk in a room full of strangers, like you can decide how you're going to greet that room of strangers, I mean, and it's so easy these days with phones to never talk to anybody, but it just is. I mean, anywhere you go, you can look at your phone. You don't have to talk to anybody ever again and be entertained. But I mean, WWDAD, what would David Addison do? He would go up to somebody and start talking to him, What's the deal with this place?
It's funny because you know what? I thought of something last night to ask you. I thought, I want, obviously he had an impression on you as a teenager, and I was going to ask you, do you think you've brought him with you throughout your life? And it looks like you have.
This is going to sound a little weird, but I brought him into every aspect of my life. I'm married love my wife. I married way out of my league. I would not be with my wife if I did not carry that David Addison swag. That's what the kids call it, swag.
Wow.
With me.
Yeah.
It's just so good. And it's so funny too. I'll tell you also, as an actor, there's something so relaxed about Bruce Willis. He's always leaning on something. He's always like, he's just relaxed. Dialogue is so fast. There's nothing precious. Bada bing, bada boom. He just goes through it. It's raw. It's quick. It's fast. Hard and fast, in and out. Just great stuff.
Well, when we interviewed Glenn, he said, look, he could give him pages of dialogue at 6:30 in the morning, and then 45 minutes later, he's out on the soundstage and he's memorized it already. He was just amazing.
Incredible. Just incredible. I mean, and I have no, I'm a bad subject for this podcast because I wasn't there, but like I that dialogue, I'd love to. I met Glenn Caron once. I mean, it was in a public place, and I just let him know I was such a huge fan of Moonlighting.
Oh, fabulous.
But he'll never remember it, so please don't say like, "Oh, gee, we met your friend Jerry O'Connell." I'm like, I have no idea who you're talking about. It was very public and very quick. I remembered it. He will not. But God, I'd love to. I've got to listen to your episode with that, because I'd love to know like the process, like. Were they like, I mean, everyone just must have been under the gun doing it. Back then, this is back when they did probably 20 episodes a season, right?
Well, they were supposed to do 22, but they never did more than 18.
They never did. No, season 2 was the most, 18. That was the most they did in season 2.
Wow, it's so funny. It's probably all they could do before they were like, we can't do anymore. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Because they would take their time with it, and Glenn would just shoot until they were done. He wouldn't stick to any schedule. So they were always running behind. Yeah. So
funny. It's so different than all the TV I work on, where the schedule dictates everything. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
By the way, I've been on, I've been on TV shows where we've been taking a long time to shoot stuff, and the boss comes in and just rips up the pages in the script and goes, all right, well, these are out of the script now. Okay. See everybody tomorrow.
Oh.
I mean, literally, like, that's the difference, like,
Wow.
It obviously wasn't a show that abided by the schedule, and probably why we're all doing a podcast about it now.
Yeah. That's the thing, here 40 years later, it's almost 40 years later, Jerry, if you can believe it. Watching it today, I think it really holds up.
It really does. It's so funny. The only thing that dates it is the fact that it's not widescreen, and that's the sign of a classic is, I was fortunate enough to be in Stand By Me with, I watched recently, it was on TV late at night, and I watched the whole thing, and from beginning to end. And I was like, well, that was a classic movie. I mean, you could put it on today, you could put it on 40 years ago. It doesn't matter. It's a classic movie. I watched Pulp Fiction with my daughter. It's a classic movie. You could watch it. I mean, I was there. I went to go see Pulp Fiction opening day in 94. I mean, my daughter was riveted. She's 15 years old. She was like, when did this come out? And I was like, 30 years ago. Just so interesting. It's funny. I couldn't help but think also, like, it's so weird how the mind works, but like when they probably did the pilot for Moonlighting in 1983, I'm guessing.
No, it was
85.
It was
early.
80. It was 85.
It was 85. Yep.
So they did the pilot in 85. It gets picked up. They start shooting the summer of 85, which is the same summer I shot Stand By Me,
Okay.
And it's just so funny how just how I was like, wow. I was trying to imagine when I was watching Blonde on Blonde, because I live in the valley where they were shooting a lot of those scenes, and I know where that supermarket is. I'm pretty sure it's on a street called Colfax and Moore Park in the valley, and it's right in Studio City, so I'm guessing they shot at Disney Studios, and it was sort of like a short drive from there. But I was really trying to imagine, like, oh, where was I when this scene was shot? I mean, I know this is getting a little weird now. I swear I'm not on, didn't take an edible or anything.
You're you're talking to two people who, spend 4 hours talking about one episode. So nothing is weird to us when it comes to moonlighting. And no, we feel the same way. And I grew up in Northern California, and, I'm a year older than you, I believe. And I feel like that too. I wish I were a couple years older and I could have gone to LA and tried to see where they were filming and things like that, because I was so close yet so far away in a way. And yeah, it would have been really cool. And I know I lived in LA for 4 years as well. And I went and saw a lot of the moonlighting locations, lots of them. And the cool thing about LA is it hasn't changed all that much. You can still see so many of the places that they filmed,
Yeah. It's so cool. It's also fun to think about, how hot all those actors were around then. So Mark Harmon comes and does a guest spot, and obviously Glenn Cairn says, oh, you're going to do a few episodes. You're going to be a big part of it. But like, it's, he's a huge star in his own right, and it's like, Bruce Willis before that was in Miami Vice, which was the hottest show right before Moonlighting. And I mean, it's just like, it's so fun to watch these young guns in Hollywood making it. And you have to also understand, this is at a time in Hollywood where if you were a network TV star, you were not considered a movie star. You were considered less than. Not me saying that. I don't agree with that at all. That's what the Hollywood hierarchy was. TV stars were not as cool as movie stars, And it's really amazing how, and I'm saying this as an actor, how Bruce Willis, it was so funny. I was watching him on Blonde, and I was like, so he literally left this set and went to go do Die Hard and brought this same swag to the big screen. And not only did it work, it changed movie making. I mean, Die Hard changed movies for the next forever. And that was skills that Bruce Willis honed on Moonlighting that he brought. And instead of chasing Maddie around, he was shooting guns and jumping out of windows. And it really is, it's just really interesting to see how this show changed entertainment.
Yeah, you're right. Bruce Willis changed the way we thought of a leading man on television, and then he changed what we thought of as an action hero.
Yeah. I mean, and here's what else is so crazy about Bruce Willis's swag. Okay, we're talking about swag and rizz and bringing yourself to these things and being yourself. Is you look at Bruce Willis, okay, very handsome man, but he ain't Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No,
he ain't Sylvester Stallone. He's not Jean-Claude Van Damme. He doesn't know martial arts. Yet he's just as big, if not bigger, than all those dudes.
Yeah.
And that just goes to show you the power of Bruce Willis's swag, his rizz, how he carries himself, his confidence. It's, it was so awesome you getting me to watch this episode, because it really, like, I'm like 50 now, you lose testosterone, you lose your rizz, you lose your, but watching Bruce Willis just reminds me of, like, it's just like, it's frame of mind stuff. Hold on a second.
If you're listening to the podcast, Jerry's just put his David Addison glasses on.
His Ray-Bans. There you go. You got your Addison.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Addison swag.
But you know what? It just goes to his talent, because not many people can go from television to movies with a click of a finger, which is what he did, and successfully as well. And
I wasn't able to do it.
And he also broke barriers, for other actors to come through, especially when it came to salary, because he got paid very well for Die Hard for the time as well.
He deserves every penny. He was
absolutely.
Yeah. He
Die Hard is an incredible watch. I recently watched that on a plane.
Die Hard completely.
Have a good time. We'll have a few laughs. It's really funny too. I'm also a New Yorker too, so he's got this sort of like Springsteen sort of like vibe to him. I mean, I think he's originally from New Jersey, right?
Jersey, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, so I mean, he's got this like sort of like, it was just
Yeah,
it's so crazy.
Cool,
I mean, only Bruce Willis could have played that part. He's a real man's man.
Yeah, but he's also kind of like the every man being put in extraordinary circumstances until he pulls it off. But the other funny thing about going back to Blonde on Blonde is, and this is such a Glenn, I think, kind of humor and choice, is Mark Harmon was the sexiest man alive at that time. Okay. So like you're saying, Bruce Willis is a handsome guy. And, throughout the series, his looks evolved because he started off a little bit goofy, like in the pilot and stuff. And yes, he's chasing this woman who's out of his league, Maddie. And that's a lot of the dynamic. But to put the sexiest man alive, how do you compete with that? But this is what Glenn does to him. And still, you're rooting for Maddie to be with David, of course. But
yeah, it's really funny. I told my wife I was coming to do your podcast, and I rewatched the episode of Moonlighting and how good it was and all this stuff. And it's the episode where Mark Harmon opens the door, and my wife went, "Ooh, I love Mark Harmon. I love Mark Harmon."
I agree with you. I've always loved Mark Harmon.
Ooh, I love Mark Harmon. I love Mark Harmon.
Exactly. And at the time, my gosh, I mean, he was like the hottest, man in the world. And you're putting David Addison up against this. And yeah. And
but it's funny. I mean, it's so funny. I mean, I don't know if you recall a few years ago, at least here in the United States, there was this whole McSteamy and McDreamy off on Grey's Anatomy, where McSteamy was Eric Dane and McDreamy was Patrick. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm blanking on his name. I'm a nightmare. I'm embarrassing. The guy from Grey's Anatomy. I just know them as McDreamy and McSteamy.
Yeah, McDreamy and McSteamy. Yeah.
Somebody look it up. Patrick, Grey's
Anatomy.
Anatomy. Help me out so I'm not embarrassed.
Yeah, I can't remember his surname.
Get it? We'll get it.
Patrick Dempsey. Boom! I'm better than AI. I'm better than a computer. Yeah, better than Google. What's up? I'm like a machine. Ta, 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 ta. Incredible. Yep. Look at this. Who needs AI when you got this just working, clicking?
Look at
you. Right there. Yes. Test of age.
But it's so funny that David Addison and then Mark Harmon, and I'm pretty sure I'm right on this because I remember not liking Mark Harmon after he hooked up with Maddie. And I remember after that episode and after a few episodes, I guess he was in a few more, he became the sexiest man alive. I remember him being on the cover and being like, he's not the sexiest man alive. Like David Addison's the sexiest man alive. It's just so funny.
Gee, they got that wrong.
I know.
What?
I said, gee, they got that wrong, didn't they?
But it's just so funny how that's like, if it wasn't for that Bruce Willis and Mark Harmon thing, there would be no McDreamy and McSteamy. It's just so funny how you get these like love triangles and you pit them against each other, and we just eat it all up. It's just so fun.
But even the
all comes
quality,
back to Moonlighting.
Yeah. But even the quality of the production, we always say in all our episodes that the time spent in lighting it, and and the set decoration in certain episodes, and it was just Jerry Finneman was such a great old style cinematographer, and you had James Agassiz, and you had Robert Turtory's dressing Sybil. The quality of not only the quality of the show, the quality of the crew. These such talented people that created this fabulous show. There's just so many aspects to the show, and you put it all together, and it was just a great package.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously also just watching Blonde on Blonde, it was also like so much was inspired by those 40s and 50s noir, detective noir shows, because just in terms of how they dressed, that beauty filter they used on Sybil Shepherd, which was something they used on all starlets here in Hollywood during the heyday of Hollywood. And David Addison was sort of the Robert Mitchum, sort of like unshaven, little gruffer.
Love it.
Yeah.
Detective. You know what's so funny? You're mentioning all those names, which I watched because I watched the credits and everything. The first AD was a guy named Skip Bodine.
Yes.
Who was a producer I worked with on a TV show. And when I saw his name, I was like, man, I wish I had like just said to Skip, like, tell me everything, dude. I can't wait. I actually just saw him. He sort of he lives in my neighborhood, and I saw his name, and I was like, man, I gotta go out to lunch with that guy and be like, dude, tell me everything.
That would be fabulous. I'd love to know what's in his brain.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, let me know if you want me to get his info if you want to talk to him. Skip.
Absolutely. Yes, we would love
Skip
to.
Bodine.
Skip Bodine. Yep.
Yeah, it's funny. In the DVD commentaries, Sybil, they're watching the credits, and she goes, "Oh, Skip Bodine." She noticed it.
Yeah. Bruce and Sybil say, "Oh, the Skip Squads, the Skip Squads,
Skip Squads."
Yeah, which I think is a play on Skip. I think they always had. I think Bruce had a lot of jokes about people's names or had a nickname for everybody. So I think they called him the Skip Squats or something. Yeah.
Hey Jerry, do you have a favorite episode that you really like to watch over and over? You can't include Blonde on Blonde.
Or a few.
I know I can't include Blonde on Blonde. Girls, this is I'm so embarrassed by saying this, but it's been a number of years since I revisited it. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna revisit it after this. I'm so happy that you made me watch Blonde on Blonde because it just reminded me everything I love about the show. I can't answer that. It's been a few years since I've watched everyone, and I want to make an educated.
Yeah.
I want to give you an educated answer.
Did you like the black and white episode, Dream Sequence?
Of course, that's a classic too, and just again, not adhering to conventions. Like, could you imagine saying, all right, we're not going to do color, and people are going to be like, a network will be like, you can't do that. Too many people will say the color broke on our TV. I'm sure people were fixing, especially with new digital TVs, they were like, oh, it's going to be on the remote. Use the remote. It's on the remote. Mm-hmm. Oh God, it's broken again.
Yeah.
You just couldn't do that, for a whole episode, like maybe a scene, but they did a whole episode. But again, really inspired by film noir, those detective movies, just Robert Mitchum,
And the Shakespeare episode is always a favorite as well.
Yeah.
They did so many
really
cool
funny. Miss DePesto is always funny, although she wasn't in Blonde on Blonde. But
not really. I think I guess she. Oh, she was getting dressed behind the because they were playing strip poker in the beginning, and she was getting dressed. I never really saw her. That was true. Good point. Yeah. Another thing that lived on with Moonlighting was that Moonlighting curse that you shouldn't let the leads sleep together, otherwise it might ruin the chemistry in the show, because everybody attributes that, which was not the reason why Moonlighting went down. But there were a lot of other factors. But yeah, that lived, Moonlighting kind of had a name for itself in that way.
Interesting. I mean, listen, again, it's groundbreaking without even knowing it's being groundbreaking. I mean, like, they were doing things that, they had Sybil Shepherd and Bruce Willis hook up, and, it's a lesson. You know what I'm saying? It's a groundbreaking thing that they're doing, that they, it's just, I really believe that, television, films are all still very much inspired by the show. And
yeah,
now they'll have to watch this podcast.
And they will. And they were inspired by those who came before them. And Glenn says, nothing is new, everything is borrowed. And then you kind of put it out there in your own way, and, new and shiny and things like that. So, which is true. You see a lot of that in Moonlighting, but they definitely.
Somebody once told me TV is the same thing, except just a little bit different.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yes.
TV's always the same thing over and over again, just a little bit different. And there were just so many factors in Moonlighting. But really it was Maddie and Dave and that relationship. I heard rumors about them and their relationship. I'm not going to speculate or say anything. I wasn't there. I should probably watch the Sybil episode that you have to hear more about it. But as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter, because what we have are the episodes, and
I know that's all that matters.
It's just electric what they have going on.
Yeah. Well, did you get our episode guidebook, Jerry? Because when you rewatch, you have to.
I got the episode guidebook. As I go through, I'm going to. I don't want any spoilers. I want to be re-surprised, but I'm going to go through it again. How did you two find each other, in a chat room somewhere, or what?
A chat room.
Yeah. Yeah, basically a Facebook group that dedicated to moonlighting. We both kind of had the same idea separately, because she's in Australia and I'm from the States, but I'm currently in Shanghai, China. I teach English here.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm in Shanghai.
It's an international podcast.
I know, very international. Yes, we're in 3 countries all at once. Isn't that amazing? So yeah, we just, she mentioned that she was looking for a podcast partner. I was already trying to put one together. We talked, and I think the next week we started recording. And you're right. And I think, the reason we really impressed Glenn, who wrote the foreword to our book, by the way, we impressed him because he said, I was surprised there was a podcast, because there were only bad copies of the show on YouTube, and it was hard to find unless you had the DVDs. Yeah. So we've been talking about the show before it was ever on Hulu, which is very exciting that it's on Hulu now. But yeah, that's how we hooked up, and it'd be fun.
All right, guys, this has been so fun.
Yeah, Jerry, thank you so much for joining us. We love meeting a fellow Moonie, and we'll see you on Instagram.
See ya. Thank you, guys.
We appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.